Speech, of course, is tabled earlier today. As I said before the break, that the SABC was not really mentioned in the budget today. Let's just take this discussion further with Thandi Smith. She's the head of policy media at Media Monitoring Africa. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks for having me in studio.
Now, the reality is the situation is dire here at the SABC, and many were of the view that today might be the day for that bailout, but nothing was said in the budget speech. Are you as surprised as many people are?
Absolutely shocked. You know, this was sort of the one day where we thought that it would finally be taken seriously and we would actually see action coming from the presidency, coming from government around the guarantee. And again, I just need to make the point that the SABC is calling for a guarantee, not a bailout, which seems to be used interchangeably at the moment, which is not entirely accurate. You know, it means very different things, and a guarantee for the broadcaster is a very different concept. It's not just asking for money to bail out of operations, it's asking for a financial guarantee from Treasury.
So, what could be the reasons? Could it be for the fact that there are vacancies now within the SABC board itself, and we've seen the Communications Portfolio Committee this week saying they're hoping to fill the vacancies by the end of March?
Well, they were hoping to fill the vacancies in January. They were hoping to fill the vacancies in February. You know, we've been given these promises about filling these board vacancies for months now, with the board vacancies having been there since May, June last year. You know, one cannot help but think that this is an engineered strategy to consistently keep the broadcaster in crisis, especially in the lead up to elections. It's the first time that we have a public broadcaster with an in-court board coming up to an election period. That's detrimental to the outcome of the elections, and the gravity of that needs to be expressed.
Yeah, but how soon do you think that government guarantee can be given to the SABC? I remember very well towards the end of last year, the SABC told Parliament that it may not be able to pay the salaries of staff at the end of this month.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer because we've had the situation.
We've had Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams telling one of our journalists in Cape Town that we're leaving Parliament today very happy, but nothing was said in the speech. So that's why many of us were confused.
We were expecting the SABC to be dealt with in the speech, and apparently it was mentioned beforehand, addressing journalists, and it was stated, according to reports, it was stated that you know, Treasury is in consultation with SABC around the financial issues, but that it shouldn't be taken lightly, and that there are things that come along with these sorts of things, which is just, it shows that the people responsible for getting the SABC out of this crisis just aren't taking it as seriously as it needs to be. And again, you know, come the end of the month, I'm really not sure what to expect.
Indeed. So the minister, on the other hand, was very firm on state-owned entities today, saying that guarantee rules will have to be tightened, CROs will have to be appointed to ensure that everything goes accordingly. Your take on that?
Well, again, it's bailout. Conditions need to be tightened, and management needs to be looked at. You know, looking at something like an entity such as SAA or Eskom that are calling for bailouts is very different to a public broadcaster of a democracy asking for a guarantee. It's, you know, yes, we need to be looking at management and governance of SOEs, but you know, when it comes to the public broadcaster, I think it's a very different kind of entity that we're dealing with.
Yeah, because many people are confused between this chief reorganization officer and your curator, because that's what he made an example of, to say that banks will have to appoint a curator and then state-owned entities will have to appoint this chief reorganizations officer. So quite a confusing one there.
Yeah, it is, and I'm hoping that the media and journalists are going to unpack it nicely, and we're going to see a little bit of contextual analysis coming out of the budget speech today, and exactly what these terms and what these positions and what these new sort of considerations or conditions mean for companies going forward. But I really hope to see a little bit of analysis and outcry around the dire state that the SABC is left in yet again.
What do you think is going to happen going forward? We're just a few months to the general elections, as you said.
We are. I mean, the outcomes for us at the moment is that we get, well, hopefully we get the board appointments in place. and we get the guarantee.
The board appointment, which may happen towards the end of March.
Which may happen towards the end of March. We're already in an election period. I mean, whatever outcome, it's not a good situation. But again, you know, the frustration is that we've been calling for these issues to be dealt with for the past year now, for at least the six months or so, with these issues. And so again, I you know, have to reiterate the fact that given the decisions, given the lack of decisions, given the delays by the portfolio committee, given the lack of the guarantee and discussion around that, you can't help but think it's an engineered crisis or engineered strategy to keep the public broadcaster in crisis and, you know, eventually turn it into a state broadcaster, because that's where we're heading.
But would you say there's perhaps some lack of willingness to assist the public broadcast? As you say, the situation has been very dire for the past few months, and the SABC actually came out to say we need this guarantee as soon as possible.
There's definitely a lack of will. You know, I don't think that can really be argued. If there was action and a strategic will to assist the SABC, we wouldn't have vacancies on the board. We would have a quorum board who's able to fulfill their governance responsibilities and their mandate. We don't have that at the moment. It's a engineered strategy to keep it in crisis.
All right, so I suppose we wait and see what happens. Thandi, thank you so much for coming through. All right, Thandi Smith is Head of Policy at Media Monitoring Africa, talking to us about the fact that nothing was mentioned on the Minister's budget on the SABC. But as I said, we've had Communications Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams telling our colleagues in Cape Town out there that they live in Parliament very happy today. So we're keeping our fingers crossed to see what happens in the next few days.